Okay, calling to order the August 10th, 2020 meeting of the Chaska Parks and Recreation Board. Mary, roll call.
Chair David Rohn.
Here.
Vice Chair Jason Branch.
Here.
Ernesto Ruiz Gutierrez. Joshua Ives.
Here.
David Downs.
Here.
Luderman.
Here.
Elizabeth Wyveen.
Here.
Georgianne Keyport. Here. Zach Suresig.
Here.
Thank you.
Is that everybody, Mary?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So with that, agenda item number 3, to adopt the agenda. Any corrections or additions to the existing agenda? If none, I'll entertain a motion to adopt.
Move to adopt.
Okay, Commissioner Uderman, second.
Second.
All right, Commissioner Downs, any discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor of adopting. And again, we're going to have to kind of go through everybody here in the Zoom meeting first. So I'll just call you out individually to agree to adopt the agenda. Elizabeth Weinveen.
I agree.
Joshua Ives.
Yes.
Okay, Zach Suresig.
Aye.
Georgianne Keyport. Jason Branch. Matt Uderman.
Yes.
David Downs.
Aye.
Okay, with that, and David Rohn, yes, I agree too. So we agree to adopt the agenda. Visitor presentation is the next item up on our agenda. Number 4, seeing that we have no one here, we are going to go ahead and close the visitor presentation portion at 7:03. And with that, moving on to item number 5, which is to approve previous meeting minutes. And we've got a boatload of them here going all the way back to March. And starting with the previous park board meeting minutes from back in March. And so entertain a motion to approve those meeting minutes.
I move to approve.
Okay, Commissioner Downs, a second.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Branch, any discussion dating all the way back to March for those of you that can remember that meeting? All right, hearing none, we're going to go through the same process here, starting with the Zoom folks. So aye or nay, Commissioner Weinveen on accepting the previous meeting minutes from Park Board in March.
Aye.
With Commissioner Ives?
Aye.
Commissioner Suresig?
Aye.
Commissioner Keyport? Commissioner Branch?
Aye.
Commissioner Uderman?
Aye.
Commissioner Downs?
Aye.
Okay, and Commissioner Rohn agrees as well. And so we do approve those meeting minutes from the Park Board back in March. And now we're going to receive the meeting as item number 6 on the agenda here for the Council and Planning meeting minutes dating back to February 24th for the City Council, and City Council meeting minutes in March 2nd, March 16th, April 20th, May 4th, May 18th, June 1st, June 15th, June 29th, and July 6th. And we do not require a motion on any of those. However, if there's anything in those meeting minutes that anyone would like to comment on at this point, feel free to do so. All right, hearing none, we're going to go ahead and agree to receive those minutes. And then we also have meeting minutes from the Planning Commission dating back to February 12th of this year, March 11th, April 8th, May 13th, and June 10th. Any questions or comments on what you would have reviewed from those meeting minutes? All right, hearing none there, then we are also going to receive those as well. And so with that, that moves us on to item number 7, which we are showing as discussion items. And with that, we're going to go ahead and introduce Park Director Marshall Grange, and he is going to present on a number of items.
All right. Good evening, Chair and Commission members. Glad to be with you tonight. Those of you that are joining us on Zoom or potentially watching in the future on YouTube, you'll see some of us are here at the event center. Thus, we are wearing our masks. And then there are some of the park board's members that have joined in via Zoom through their home. So this is kind of the new way of doing meetings. And so bear with us as this is our first time doing this as a park board. One thing I may suggest is that for future park board meetings, we may have some cardboard cutouts in the seats, to create a little bit of an audience for us and some entertainment. But so yes, with that, it has been since March since we've last met and had a regular meeting. We did meet last month just via a work session and toured had the chance to tour the community center, which I'll be talking about in my updates with the park board. So the intent tonight is to go through several discussion items, and on the front end, we'll be really recapping kind of what the Park and Rec Department has done and accomplished since March over these last 3 months. So kind of reviewing some of the things I've shared with the park board, but in talking with Chair Roan, he felt it was important that we kind of go on record and talk about some of the things that our department has done. So we'll start off with the staffing, facilities, and programming updates that have occurred through our department. So what I'm going to be doing next, I prepared a presentation to go through the discussion items. So I'm just going to go ahead and switch over to share my screen, and then we can view that together. All right. All right, is everybody able to see that? And I can zoom in too. All right. Great, so starting off with update on staffing. So since last March, we've actually seen a decent amount of change within our department. And so just prior to COVID starting in March, we had already been in the process of hiring a new position in our department, which was ice arena and operations coordinator. And so this position was intended to, provide additional supervision of the ice arena weekday evenings and then on weekends, oftentimes where we have a lot of activity occurring in the ice arena. So we hired an individual by the name of Joey Bergquist. He came to us with a lot of ice arena experience. Most recently, his experiences over with the city of Bloomington. So we were happy to welcome him to our department. Ironically, his very first day was the day we had to close the community center. So that was kind of an interesting thing. But he's done a magnificent job stepping in and helping out with a variety of other projects throughout that time. And now that we've been open, he's been a real valuable addition to us. In addition, since we last met, we did have a resignation within our department by Colleen Goodrich. She served as our member services supervisor. So she wanted to pursue some other opportunities. So definitely want to thank her for her service to the city and our department. She was with us for over 15 years. That position ultimately got backfilled internally by Rachel Dodson, who was in the role of our aquatics and operations coordinator. So she moved over into Colleen's position, which we changed it up a little bit. So Colleen was really in charge of the guest service staff operation at the front desk, in charge of the daycare and then also a lot of the membership management. So all the administration with processing and things like that with our memberships. And so we felt like there was an opportunity to put more of an emphasis on the supervision of the staff in the daycare and section off more of the administrative piece of it. And that would going to be moved over to one of our admin assistants. So we've really appreciated Rachel and the things she's already done with the front desk staff, and really looking to expand upon our customer service there. Also within the time since we last met, that admin assistant position I had mentioned was formerly Patty Tollickson, who I'm assuming many of you know. She retired from the department. 25 plus years. I think she was at even close to 30 years. So it was a pleasure working with Patty since the time I've been here. I told her all along I wished I could have started earlier and worked with her even longer. But she's just a ball of energy, and now she's over at the pickleball courts pretty much every morning if you want to go catch up with her. So due to the situation we're in though, however, and being mindful of budgets, the backfilling of Patty's position, that admin assistant position, has been put on hold. And then also the backfilling of Rachel's previous position, the aquatics and operations coordinator, has also been put on hold. So we're just finding other ways to account for those responsibilities. And then, we'll have further discussion down the road and see how our membership comes back and things to bring those positions back. And then lastly, we still had the need to rehire for our previous facility maintenance manager position, Ron Piper, who had served for the city a long time and had retired. And we went through a process earlier in the year that didn't pan out, and so we went through another process recently. And happy to announce that we've hired an individual by the name of Josh Hargis, and he actually started with us today. Was his first day. And so he's coming to us from Florida with some extensive experience in the military, overseeing maintenance of Apache helicopters. And then he's also got a lot of other unique management and administrative experience. So we're really looking forward to getting to know him more and have him take over our facilities over at the community center. And that position too has also changed a little bit. So it's not a manager position anymore. It's a supervisor position that will report into our community center manager. And the reason that is earlier in the year, we've developed a new overall facilities maintenance division for the entire city. And so a while back, the city had done a staffing study to determine where some of our gaps are. And one of the outcomes of that study was a shortage of staff generally maintaining all of the city facilities. And so through discussion within the various departments and administration, it was determined that division would be housed out of our public works department. And so they now have 3 individuals that make up that department. And the community center and this facility here, the curling and event center, along with all the other city facilities, are part of their oversight. And they're primarily taking care of a lot of the larger structural, mechanical type things. Thus, we didn't necessarily need a manager level position at the community center with that much experience. And so that role is going to be a little more focused on what I call the operational maintenance within the facility, which there's a lot at the community center to take care of, just all the inner workings, equipment and things like that. And then also overseeing our full-time custodial staff and then all of the part-time facility attendants as well. And then just to share with you too, since the last time we've met, and obviously we've been in the midst of this pandemic, both myself and Mary Monteith, my assistant, have been a part of the city's Emergency Operations Center. And so when that first started, we were meeting daily, just with all the different information that was coming out. And then a little ways in, it moved to 3 days a week, and now we're currently down to meeting 1 day a week. But we continue to meet and talk through the different things going on related to the pandemic and what it means for the city on a weekly basis as we go. So Mary and I have been pretty involved in all of that process. And in fact, it was pretty evident that Fire Chief Tim Wiebe needed some additional support as the overall emergency operations manager. And so he had asked me to see if Mary would be willing to assist more with that operation. And so I just want to thank Mary for her willingness to be flexible and assist in another area for quite a few months there. And then as it relates to our part-time staff, which are another critical component to our team within our department, back when we had to close down our facilities, we actually made the decision to keep them on the payroll. We ended up paying them through the month of April. Really, we back then really weren't sure, how serious this was and how long it was going to be. And, we really wanted to make sure if we had the ability to open back up again, that we were ready to do that with our staff. But once we got to a point where we realized, we're kind of in this for the long run, so to speak, we had to make some decisions there. And one thing we did was worked with some of the other departments who were, in the late spring gearing up to hire for seasonal part-time staff. And we were able to talk that through and essentially put a priority on our part-time staff working at the community center along with the curling and event center, knowing that, they typically work year round and are dependent on that income. So we did worked with human resources, put out a survey to the staff to find out what other type of work might interest them and what skill sets they had. And then ultimately worked with, I think it was about 50 or 60 staff, and reassigned them to work in other departments. So some were working over at the golf course. Many were working over at Public Works. Some assisted with some human resource projects. We had others in the electric department working with some GIS type stuff. So it was a great way to, continue to keep them employed, but also allow them to work in another department and get some experience, a different experience with the city. And so I think they appreciated that. Many of them also stuck with us to do a lot of the projects that we did at the community center, which I'll be touching on here shortly. And then there was probably about half of our department that we ultimately had to furlough just because all the other needs were fulfilled, or maybe they just didn't feel comfortable continuing to work. So those are the updates on the staffing. Any questions anybody has regarding the staffing?
Just had one comment. I know it's been a hot topic at the national level, state level, local level, as it relates to the balance of staff in our community is changing. There's different places that we look different than we did even 20 years ago. And so when there's open positions and other things from an ethnic or a diversity perspective, is there anything what we're implementing on a hiring standpoint to make those jobs accessible to folks that may have high level of quality to add to our overall diversity when we have patrons that come to the community center?
I mean, I can't point anything out specifically like an actual, strategy or methodology, but I know it's something we talk about at the department head level with our human resources, and just the interest in wanting to reach out to the broader community and make sure that they're aware of our positions. I am happy to share at the community center, especially as it relates to part-time staff. We've been very mindful of that. And so as we've reopened, we've had the need to hire some new part-time positions, our facility attendant role, just because there's much more emphasis on the cleaning and sanitization protocols within the building. So we've been successful recently hiring individuals of different diversity and backgrounds. We even were able to hire an individual through MRCI that has some special needs. So I feel like we're making some really good progress there.
Thank you.
Within our department.
Any comments out there from the Zoom world on the same staffing update topic? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Marshall, for that update. So the next item up here on discussion items is 7B for facilities update.
All right, so starting off with the community center. So again, just to recap, looking back, we were ultimately needing to close on March 17th due to the governor's mandate. And so once that occurred, the very next day, we put all of the community center memberships on hold. So a lot of back-end work within our technology to do that and communicate everything out to all the members as to what was occurring. Shortly thereafter, we took out the ice in our ice rinks and we took out the water in the pool, so we weren't incurring cost to keep water frozen on one end and water warm on another. And then really had the opportunity to dive in on some much needed maintenance and improvement projects at the community center. It's one of those where it's a difficult situation to be spending money, but in talking with our city administrator, I really felt like, the fact that the community center is going on 30 years old and needed some updates, we really got to get in a position when we reopen to be attractive again and sell memberships. And so I felt like if we spent that whole 3 months and didn't do anything, that wouldn't really look well either. And so what I thought I'd do next, I just got some pictures to highlight a variety of projects, but big kudos goes out to Kelsey, our community center manager, who oversaw a lot of the projects along with our custodial staff, and then just all of the other community center staff and the recreation program staff just kind of dove right in and helped out where needed. And looking back, I'm just very impressed with, the amount of things we were able to accomplish in 3 months. And I think the staff would tell you they had fun with it too. They got to know each other in a little bit different way, sweating it out and getting paint on each other and things like that. So with that, there's the picture of the pool. I would say this was probably where we invested the most in facility enhancement at the community center. So this space ultimately got a fresh coat of paint all the way throughout. The entire floor deck got a new finish, new epoxy finish. Even all of the, it's kind of hard to see around the corner there, but like the stone that make up the hot tub area and whatnot, that all got repainted. The Caterpillar slide back there had a lot of cracks and chunks of plaster missing, so that all got repaired and repainted. LED lights were put in throughout, and that was a partnership with some rebate program with our electric department. And then we also installed, it's hard to see there, it's over the shallow end pool, but a really large ceiling fan that helps distribute the air throughout the pool. Locker rooms all got repainted. And then also the steam room, the tile in there got completely recoated. So it's looking much nicer there. This is a picture of the entryway into our ice arena. And so we were already slated budgetarily this year to replace the flooring there. So that's just highlighting the new flooring there. The previous flooring was bubbling and causing some tripping hazards throughout. So this flooring extends throughout rink 1 and then over to rink 2 and within the lobby of rink 2. So that's been a nice enhancement over at the rink. In addition, when the ice was taken out, it's an opportunity to clean all the marks on the boards. The other reality too, rink 1 hadn't seen the ice come out in several years, just because typically we put turf in rink 2 and keep rink 1 going year round. So it's a nice opportunity to do some additional maintenance on rink 1 and then do all the repainting once we put the ice back in there. Rink 2 as well, right prior to having to shut down, the dehumidifier unit went out on rink 2. So that was the original dehumidifier with the building. So once they added on rink 2, they actually relocated the dehumidifier from rink 1 over to rink 2 and put the new one in rink 1. And so it was just one of those where it served its life. And so we had to replace the dehumidifier as well. And that was a project that building maintenance department assisted with. So that was nice. This picture is showing what we did with our fitness center space. So, keep being mindful of, maintaining the 6 feet of social distance. We really wanted to maximize the use of our equipment. And so we felt like pulling all of our equipment out into the gym lent us the ability to spread everything out. And then we worked with Rob's Electric to run electric and cable to all of the equipment. And this allows every single piece of equipment to be utilized versus had we kept it within the fitness center space, we probably would have had to put, every other piece of equipment out of order. And then that lent itself in the fitness center space to really spread out the weight room stuff, all the free weights and selectorized weight equipment. And I think people, the feedback so far amongst our members is they really like how this is spread out. They feel comfortable, they feel safe. On day 1 when we reopened, we even got feedback from one of our members who admitted that they were kind of a germophobic. And so I was happy to hear that, we portrayed ourselves well enough that they felt comfortable coming in to begin with, but then the experience that they had, you know, and seeing it in person and whatnot, they felt like our protocols were very safe. So I was happy about that. This is a shot of our front desk. And so we enhanced this by giving it a coat of paint there, that green on the bottom. Like many places, installed the plexiglass to create a barrier between staff and patrons. And then again, just fresh coat of paint in the background there. This space here is reconverted to staff office space. So this here was formerly the Rainbow Room. So right when you walk into the main entrance into the community center, off to your left there was the Rainbow Room, which was, you know, essentially a multi-purpose rental space. So once again, thinking about staff spacing, we were all housed in the Park and Rec office area. There's about 12 to 15 of us. And so made the decision to relocate the community center facilities team essentially over to this space. And this was something that I was already thinking about, more so to support the guest service function at the front desk there as well. And so one of the other overarching goals is to centralize our customer service to that main front desk, rather than having essentially two customer service stations, being the front desk and the desk that is over at the Park and Rec office area. So just trying to funnel everything to the front desk there. Here's a picture of a newly installed workspace cubicle for one of the police staff at the community center. So this is right outside of the upper gym. And so we're really excited to have Julie Janke office out of here. So Julie serves as the community engagement specialist for the police department, and she serves on our current Chaska Cares team that I'll talk about in a little bit. But it's a great way for her to engage the community within the community center, but also same thing down at the police department. Staffing's a little tight, so it was kind of a win-win situation to create some more space down there as well.
Sort of a perfect space for her. Perfect location for Julie.
Yeah, we're excited to have her up there. And then this is a couple pictures. The one's just showing on the left there, the hallway leading down to the theater. And so you can see just a fresh coat of paint on the walls, really brightened it up, gave it a fresh, clean look. You know, rather older carpet there, but several carpet extraction times throughout those 3 months really kind of brought that back to life the best we could, which was nice. And then just little things like installing the water bottle fillers at all of our drinking fountains, knowing that we couldn't have drinking fountains in use, the traditional ones throughout due to the COVID. So we've installed those throughout our facility. And in fact, the one right in the hallway there on the left-hand picture on the right-hand side there, that one was funded through the local Girl Scouts. And so they took it upon themselves to do some fundraising and bring some awareness around, you know, refillable water bottles rather than all the plastic water bottles, and just the impact that has on the environment. So really appreciate the local Girl Scouts and their efforts. They have a little flyer up there right now just talking a little bit about that. So there were quite a few other smaller scale projects that took place as well, but wanted to share those highlights. once we started approaching the ability to be able to reopen, like a lot of other businesses, we had to work towards developing our preparedness plan, and then work towards unfurloughing our part-time staff, transitioning the staff that were working in other departments back over, conducting several staff trainings on the different protocols that we're putting in place, so they feel comfortable coming back to work. Back on June 15th was when we were able to reopen the ice arena. So that was a little earlier than the rest of the facility, and that was based on some of the guidelines that got put forth for organized youth sports that allowed hockey arenas to reopen. Initially, we only reopened for the first couple of weeks to Breakaway Academy. They are one of our lease tenants within the facility, and you know, they kind of wanted to wrap some things up as part of their school year. In addition, obviously, they weren't able to use a lot of their ice time that was part of their lease. So we wanted to let them have full use in the beginning, and then slowly thereafter, we opened it up to all of our other partners that rent ice from us. And initially, the ice arena was, both rinks were rented from like 8 in the morning till 11 at night, Monday through Sunday. So it was hopping there over at the ice arena. And a lot of that was just due to the restrictions and how many kids could be on the ice at a given time. So teams just need that much more ice time to accommodate the size of their teams, having to hold multiple practices. And then it was on July 7th when we reopened kind of the fitness areas and the pool within the community center. So we've been open a little over a month now. We've opened to members only to begin with. And one of the measures we put in place is a requirement to have to sign up. So we felt like that was called out within the Stay Safe guidelines for health clubs and fitness centers. And really the idea there is adequately being able to manage the capacity, not only within our facility, but also within the various spaces within the facility. You know, so if we just did the overall capacity of the community center, but then everybody decided to go to the pool, that would be a problem. And so big kudos to Susan Merrick. She's our software systems supervisor. And she's really our whiz with our registration software, ActiveNet. And so she literally built kind of that whole back end and the ability for our members to be able to sign up online to reserve their spot at the community center. So leading up to that, in addition, we knew this was going to be a change for our members. And so our staff contacted via phone all of our members. And it was just an opportunity to check in, see how everybody's doing, give them an update as to when we're reopening, and then also making sure that they had what they needed to be able to log into their account and successfully be able to sign up for their time slots. So that continues. Members are essentially able to reserve their time slot up to 3 days in advance, and then it closes at 4 a.m. every morning. That way staff can run a report for everybody that's pre-signed up for the entire day. They then keep that roster up at the front desk so that as people are checking in, they're verifying that. There is still the ability, though, day of, for members to still sign up by calling in or even stopping in person if there is room within the time slot. So the time slots members can sign up for, there's the weight and cardio area option. It's an 1.5-hour time slot, so they can go on that cardio equipment I showed you in the gym or go into the weight area in the fitness center. They also have options of going into our group fitness studios. And then we also have some spin bikes over in our sunroom that they're able to utilize as well. We then have a 1/2 hour gap in between the next session. So that allows staff to go in and thoroughly sanitize all the equipment before the next wave of members come in. The other areas members can sign up for are the group fitness classes, which we're hosting in the upper gym. There's the option for lap swim, and then we also have an option for open swim. And so that's what we started out with initially. And then as, and that was pretty intentful, to be honest. We wanted to start small, get a feel for how this is going to go, put some of our protocols in place. And then as we feel more comfortable in, along with the guidelines we're following, look to reopen more amenities within the building.
How's the attendance been to date?
Yeah, so I would say, overall it's been slow. Combination is, there is limited capacity. It could be due to just having to sign up, but also in, typically the summer we're a little quieter as it is, but I would say it varies day to day, but what's been eye-opening is lap swimming. I think since the time we've opened through today, almost 95% of our time slots have been full. Group fitness is another popular one, which is to be expected, just a little bit of that social interaction. I think we're seeing about 30 to 40% of our capacity there. And then the fitness center is right around 30% of our capacity that we're seeing. Just this last Friday, this last weekend, and then going forward, Fridays and Saturdays, we'll offer opportunity for open skate for members to sign up for. And then just starting today is the option for the indoor track. So again, that's its own separate sign up that people can select within the system.
Is that available to non-members as well, the track by way of sign up?
Nope. So currently we're still members only. We're having that discussion. We're really looking at October. The beginning of October is probably kind of that next transition where, I think a lot of people are going to be focused on school coming up here, and typically in September you're getting used to those new schedules. October, I think, is where people start kind of looking to come back into exercise. The weather's starting to change. So I think at that time you'll see we'll be looking to expand our hours, because right now we also have modified hours. We're closing a little earlier in the evening, and then we're completely closed on Sundays. So we'll probably expand hours. We've still got to look at some of our open gym programming. We've got our drop-in daycare, and then also participation amongst the seniors within the lodge. So those are all still things that we're having discussion on as we go forward here. All right.
Since you've been open, have you been aware of or notified of any staff or members who have been tested positive for COVID or presumptive?
So far, we haven't been made aware of any exposures or positive tests stemming from the use of the pool or the fitness center areas. However, we were notified by the Carver County Public Health as it relates to the ice arena. And so there was an individual that was exposed there to somebody that tested positive. And so worked with Chaska Athletic Director John Summers on that, and ultimately a communication went out to to the parents of that individual's training pod. And then their basically training and practices were canceled for 14 days before they could return back. So.
Marshall, just one comment back related to, adjustment of hours there at the community center. And as, the days get shorter and we move into late summer and fall and schedules change and what have you, I know that the community center has for a long time had a very dedicated group there with their nose pressed to the front door waiting for you to open. And so would you anticipate that, it could go back to some of the original opening times, which I believe is around 5 a.m.?
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Good. I've been asked about that by a few people, and that will be well received.
Yeah. The other thing I'd point out too, I know it was a question of a former park board member, was around our policies as it relates to age. And so that is another item that we implemented when we reopened, is now that the age requirement is 12 years of age, whereas before it used to be 15. And it still does require an individual that's 12 to be with an adult at all times, up to the age of 15. But we feel like this really kind of bridges the gap for families that have memberships at the community center, where while their kids are young, they're probably utilizing the indoor playground, and then they transition to the use of the pool and things like that. But then there's kind of this gap when they outgrow the pool. But with the former policy of needing to be 15, there just wasn't as much for them to do. And the reality is most other health clubs have their age limit set at 12. And it's just so common in the schools now to have, weight training as part of curriculum in middle school and things like that. So I think that'll be another positive change for the community center as well.
All right. Does that take us to the end of our facilities update?
Well, that's just the community center.
There's more. Okay, continue on.
So looking
Marshall.
at this venue.
Marshall
Oh.
and Zach, my apologies. I just wanted to ask a quick question about the community center.
Yeah.
And I apologize if I missed if you already covered this, but I was curious about what the membership level was at before the closure and where it sits at currently, just out of curiosity. As you mentioned about wanting to be able to get out and sell more memberships at some point here.
Question, yeah. Yeah, I don't have the specific number offhand, but I would say that we've probably lost close to 40% of our members since we've had to close. There was the option to put your membership on hold, but I think a lot of members were just more comfortable canceling and then rejoining once they feel comfortable. And then we're in that unique situation right now where, not all of the amenities that come with a membership are available to use currently. Or people just aren't quite comfortable coming back in yet. So we're hoping over time, as we add those amenities back, and as the situation changes and people are more comfortable, that we'll be able to attract those members back to our facility. That being said, though, I would say, in talking with Rachel, that we've also been seeing members joining pretty regularly since we've reopened. So we're averaging 2 to 3 new members a day as we've opened as well. And I think some of that is because people do like the protocols that we have put in place here at the community center.
But I think overall too that as much as a lot of the precautions, and you guys have, everything looks great at the community center, and obviously clearly have done your homework and due diligence to make sure all the proper safety protocols are being followed and adhered to. And I think one of the larger messages I've been hearing since as far back as February, March from a lot of the national health officials is that one of the greatest things that we can do to protect ourselves, not only now, but in the future against viruses and potential pandemics goes back to your individual health and how you're taking care of yourself. And as awful as it sounds to be thinking about, well, how do we turn around and sell memberships right now at the community center? At the same time, obviously, it's something that you have to be mindful of from the business aspect of the community center, but there's no greater selling point than, it seems like every January, I got to imagine memberships are flying off the shelves because people are with New Year's resolutions. But I think at some point, I think a lot of people are starting to get that message now that one of the greatest weapons you have in terms of protecting yourself and those around you is by keeping yourself healthy. And a lot of that comes back to having a facility that you feel comfortable coming to on a regular basis.
Absolutely. That's a great point you make, and as we've seen, this virus, tends to, I guess, I'm trying to think of the right word here, affect people that have underlying health conditions the most, and a lot of those underlying health conditions, many of them are preventable through, leading a healthy and active lifestyle. And so I think you're right. It's one of those where I think, the overall big picture, it is a good reminder, that it's important for us as individuals to take care of ourselves and our health, not only for the variety of benefits it provides on the wellness spectrum, but and to your point, even to help fend off a virus. You just never know. So thanks for making that point.
Marshall, membership usually typically declines over the summer period. Anyways, this was kind of a perfect storm leading up to the summer months and then COVID on top of it. So I would hope that, with the fall coming back around and it's harder to get those outside workouts in, that membership will tend to improve.
Yeah, we're hoping right with you. You're right. It was a perfect storm. Just as, as that hit, along with the season of just general cancellations, because people do like to work outside more when they're or exercise out more outside in the summer. And I think the other thing to mention too is we have a real strong older adult population that are members at the community center. So I think it's just going to be a little while yet before they're feeling comfortable coming back. Any other questions on the community center?
Is the lodge not open right now?
Oh, that still remains closed. Yeah, and that, technically still the governor's executive order still does state, individuals 65 and older, should be doing, for the most part, their best at staying home as much as possible. So. All right, so moving on to the Chaska Curling and Event Center. Similarly, this facility closed back on March 17th. Shortly thereafter, also took out the ice in the rink here, and then took on some maintenance and improvement projects here as well. This facility is much newer. We're only going on 5 years, so there wasn't the need to do a lot of projects here, but It was nice to get a lot of fresh coat of paint throughout the facility. Same thing in terms of the carpeting. You know, there's a lot of events that occur here in the event center with food and drink, and so it takes its toll over time. So it was nice to focus on the carpeting. You know, so then shortly after that, the Crooked Pint also closed. You know, they stayed open for a little while beyond our closing on the 17th. You know, and I think they just didn't really see the sales coming through for the curbside and the takeout. So they made their decision to close. And then they ended up reopening back on June 8th once the guidelines allowed for them to reopen again. But they reopened also again at a time where we hadn't quite opened yet. Here in the Curling and Event Center, the Event Center ended up reopening on June 15th. But really that was more so to cater to a lot of our internal meetings. So as we're meeting here tonight, and City Council's been meeting here within this space as well. So it's open, but we weren't really, you know, most of the events that were on the books had already canceled. You know, and that's another thing throughout this process that's been difficult. And I think, you know, our event center supervisor, Krista, has done a really good job just staying in touch with all of the brides and grooms that, you know, had special days planned for this facility. And, you know, we, our vision within our department is to create lifelong memories, and, you know, not being able to fulfill that, those are difficult conversations to have with those individuals. And she's done a really good job, and, you know, tried to figure out how to reschedule or find other opportunities for them. And as I say that, actually our first wedding in this space is going to actually occur this coming Saturday. So that'll be interesting to follow up and see how that goes. And then the Curling Center reopened July 27th. So it's been open for a couple of weeks now. The very first week we opened was essentially for members to come in and practice. And then August 2nd, we started up the Summer League session. And so we had 60 teams sign up for the Summer League. You know, to max out our leagues would be 120. I would say typically though, our summer leagues see more like 80 to 90 teams. So I felt, you know, 2/3 of what we usually see was a pretty strong return amongst our curling members. So happy with that. You know, I think that's starting to produce a little more activity within the Crooked Pint as well. So it's nice to see those functions back up and running. And then staff here are gearing up for the fall leagues, which will be opening for registration here within the next couple weeks, I believe. And then it was the staff here at the Curling and Event Center, many of the full-time staff, aside from Krista and Jeff, that also got reassigned to assist with some of the other departments. So Scott and Clay helped out over at the golf course, and then our overnight custodian, Christine, came over to the community center and assisted with a lot of projects over there. So thankful for everybody's flexibility. Any questions on the Curling and Event Center? No? Okay. So next up, recreation program update. So there again, with the closing of the facilities, which is where most of our programs occur within our facilities, we also had to cancel all of our programming. And that was quite the task then, to have to refund all of the individuals that were registered and already participating in our programs. So had to go through and figure out the prorated amount to refund back to everybody. So again, just a big kudos to staff for navigating all of that. Shortly thereafter, our recreation program team created Camp Chaska. So while the community center wasn't quite embarking on the maintenance projects that I talked about, there was the opportunity to help out other employees within other departments with this kind of new news of schools closing and facilities closing. But we still had a need for many of our staff that serve in essential departments to still come to work and provide those services for the city. So our recreation team put together Camp Chaska for our internal employees to be able to bring their kids over for the day while they could continue to come to work, and did that for a few weeks so that parents could then kind of figure out some other long-term options as we went ahead. I'd say the recreation program teams probably had the most difficulty with this pandemic. In their world, you're planning 3-4 months out. We had already released our summer activity guide. It was already mailed throughout the community, and week by week, we're just working through all of the changing information and trying to figure out, are we going to be able to run this program, or how about this special event a month out from now? And it sort of got paralyzing, to be honest. And so in talking with staff, we just felt that the best decision we could make is to forego all of the programming that we had put in place and just start fresh. Start out with a new piece of paper and, look at our programming differently with more of a month-to-month model, and just, going off of the information we know at the time and trying to do things that we feel that we can do comfortably and confidently. And so they've come up with a lot of creative ideas. They've been offering the Zoom fitness classes. So while we were closed throughout that time, people were still able to socially connect via Zoom and stay physically active within their households. They created a bike bingo program, several make and take kits that kind of played off of the holidays. Just a whole host of things. You may have recently seen the pet photo contest that was on Facebook. That got a lot of comments and likes, and it was fun to see those pictures come through. And they continue to do that, and trying to look ahead as far as we can. But I'll be honest, it's still a little difficult, to think about those bigger community events. We normally would be embarking on Touch a Truck here pretty soon. That's been widely popular event here in Chaska, and so it's tough to not to be able to offer that to the community. And shortly thereafter, we'd be looking at Halloween and things like that. So we're still trying to think about what we can do to engage the community and still try to create that connection the best we can. And then throughout this, we've also stayed in communication with all of the youth athletic associations as it relates to, our field facilities, and working through the guidelines and putting it, communicating with them, you know, what needs to be in their preparedness plans and things like that. So just a lot of ongoing communication and trying to figure things out together and do the best we can. Also out of the recreation programming side of it, we started an initiative called Chaska Cares, and this was really something that as we thought about this pandemic and this idea of people needing to isolate at home, we knew that there would be the potential for some mental health challenges, and you know, the importance of trying to keep people connected. And you know, what I've been saying throughout is just trying to kind of maintain and lift the community spirit the best we can. And so this Chaska Cares initiative was really intended to do that. And what we wanted to do is really highlight a lot of the great things going on in the community. And so we've really reached out and connected with a lot of the nonprofit groups and other citizen-led groups in the community, doing great things, and you know, sharing that, highlighting what they're doing, but also lending some additional assistance where we can. And so some of the things we've done, I got a list here to share with you. We've participated in several food distribution events. We did a coloring book for seniors. We did a mask donation and then a distribution out to the community. Working with the fire and police department, they did the birthday party drive-bys, which were hugely popular here in Chaska. I think they ended up doing over 350 of those. So big kudos to them. We worked with the American Legion Auxiliary. Typically they put on the Easter egg hunt over at City Square Park and weren't able to do that. And so we assisted by doing an Easter Bunny parade throughout the community. When Memorial Day came, we worked with the VFW and the American Legion to put on a virtual Memorial Day program. And that also included sitting down and talking with some of the local veterans and allowing them to share their unique stories. We've been able to provide free bikes throughout the community. I think we've delivered over 50 bikes. And a lot of that work was done with the assistance of Julie Janke through the police department. We did some vegetable pots over to the seniors, and that was something that was in conjunction with Home Depot. We worked with the Chaska High School and their graduation. So they're again not able to do the traditional graduation, and so we did a parade route with them. There's the picture of the bus and several of the school administration staff, along with some city staff, and just came up with a route that you know, highlighted where most of the seniors lived in the community. Rocked out some music. People were dancing in the streets. It was a lot of fun. And then, I don't know, can anybody guess who is in that Hawks? The Hawks mascot uniform there? That would be our city administrator, Matt Podorowski. So just great to see the involvement amongst our leadership with some of these initiatives as well. Also ongoing through Chaska Cares, Julie Janke does regular check-ins with the senior living complexes, see how things are going. Joan Seedorf and Karen, who do a lot of our lodge programming, have on a continual basis reached out to the seniors and talked to them over the phone and connected with them. Currently, we are doing an internal spare change collection to try to assist those that need help with their laundry. So a partnership with the local laundry provider. So we got a little interdepartmental challenge throughout the city to donate spare change to that cause. And then our group just had a meeting this morning to talk about, kind of keep thinking about ideas. And one of the things that came up that we're going to be working on is a door hanger. And so encouraging, especially kids, could include others in the community. We'll have sort of a template that people can print off at home, and then they can cut it out, but there'll be some built-in verbiage there to kind of create a connection, and then that can be anonymously, or our wish is to especially focus again on the seniors living within the senior homes, to be able to place this door hanger on their door and just again kind of lift their spirits for that day. So a lot of great activity through the Chaska Cares initiative, and it's been a great experience being a part of that. And the core team that's on that is Aaron Link, who's our recreation program manager, Joan Seedorf, who recreation supervisor for our seniors, Kevin Wright, our communications manager, Julie Jenke in police, Sarah Anderson in fire, along with myself. So just really want to take the opportunity to thank them for all of their hard work and ideas throughout this as well. All right. Any questions on recreation programming?
Just have a comment. I think this displays impeccable leadership by you, Marshall. It's really easy to have 20/20 vision when you look back and say, man, I wish you would have done it this way or that way. But the foresight to get stuff done in the building, the foresight to redeploy your talent, the foresight to do something like Chaska Cares shows good leadership. And let's be honest, you're relatively new to the role, and I think you've done a great job, you and your staff. So I just wanted to make that known.
Thanks, Matt.
All right, hearing no other comments, if you wanted to go ahead and move on to the Hawks Ridge Trail opening.
Excuse me, I need a water break.
Well, I was trying to buy you some time there.
Yeah. All right. So next up, the Hawks Ridge Trails. Excited to announce those are now open. Many of you were there to participate. Back on Thursday, June 25th was when we officially opened the trails. And so I want to thank you all for your support, for those of you that have been a part of that process along the way, and then take the chance to thank those entities that are up here on the slide that were a part of this project. So Carver Trails, which is the volunteer group that ultimately built and will maintain these trails. So big thanks to Tim Vosberg, who's the president of their board and kind of been their primary contact throughout this. The Minnesota Department of Transportation for providing us the limited use permit to be able to build these trails on the parcel of land that they own within that site. Carver County for their partnership in navigating this project as well. They provided a lot of assistance with some of the map exhibits that we needed to get that limited use permit with the Department of Transportation, along with just ongoing discussions on how best to lay out the trails, and thinking about the parking impact and things like that. There was also staff at Carver County, Pete, who produced all of the signage for the trailhead, along with the directional stickers out on the site. And then also Allison Campbell, who is their GIS specialist, who took all the GIS mapping data that we provided her and created the main map on the trailhead. And then also Carver County ultimately conveyed some of the land that they owned over to the city of Chanhassen and the city of Chaska. So there was some coordination there as well. And then lastly, the city of Chanhassen, working with them as you know, the eastern edge of this site falls within the city limits of Chanhassen. So working with them, their park board and their city officials to get the necessary approvals, along with signing the three-way memorandum of understanding that needed to take place. So with that, our Chaska Communications Department put out a video that highlights the opening of these trails. So I'm gonna go ahead and transition over to that.
May need to share it through here if they want to hear the sound.
Okay,
So,
are you gonna share it then?
well, this will be a first. We'll see.
Okay.
Fun.
Hey, we're testing things out here. So talking here to our,
So stop sharing real quick.
I'm gonna stop share. Okay. Do you want me
Sorry to
to,
make you guys the guinea pigs.
do you want me to try it on my end?
Yeah, go share screen. Yeah, give it a shot.
Okay,
And then it should be
right here.
Yeah, but there's a way to do it where. Yeah, but I don't think there's.
Oh, because I turned off the audio on my computer.
Yeah, the only other.
Will it pick it up through this though?
It'll probably feedback.
Feedback? Okay.
That's the key. Issue, but, so if you go share screen, is there a way to do it on? Click stop share for a second. Let's see it. I'll click share screen again. Let's see if we can't figure it out. They'll just have to do it without.
Share computer sound
You can try that, yeah.
and then open and then do that.
Try advance real quick. Let's just see.
Music or computer sound only.
No files. Yeah, you're just gonna have to try. You can try it that way. Oh no, go back to
Oh.
basic. Yeah.
Basic, okay.
You can just go back to your YouTube.
Well, let's give it a whirl, huh?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Awesome, super flowy.
Yeah?
The jumps.
The jumps?
The jumps are great.
As far as the navigation goes,
It was great. You could totally tell where you need to go, and yeah, the turnoffs were great, built well.
hey, what's your favorite part of the trail so far?
Maybe the woods, like when you go into the back and then you get to ride over like a trailer hitch thing.
So yeah, big thank you goes to Mike Tudor in our communications department, along with.
It was a lot of fun to make that, by the way.
I bet.
Yeah.
Nice job.
There we go. Am I still sharing? Oh, okay. Yeah, so big thanks to Mike Tudor for putting that video together, and along with Kevin Wright and their support on getting that up on Facebook and promoted. Ever since those trails have been open, I've been getting a lot of great feedback. They're very visible, being along the highway there, so they're definitely getting recognized. In fact, last week, Friday, I was contacted by someone in a staff member of Senator Amy Klobuchar's office that had heard about the trails and generally wanted to inquire just about how the project came along and who the various entities were. So that was kind of neat. All right, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen here. And then there's just a view of the main trailhead map there, showcasing the trails. So there's about 4 miles worth of trail in there. Again, it's really intended to be kind of beginner to intermediate level trails. Although, I've ridden them myself and I've heard from others, for kind of a small site, it's got a decent amount of elevation. So you get a good workout in there. And I know that Tim Vosberg has reported back that the mountain bike club team's really enjoying it over there. Any other questions on the Hawk Ridge Trail? No? Okay.
All right, well, hearing none, if you want to go ahead and move on to item 7E for the bicycle-friendly community update.
Yeah, so this was in kind of an update item that previously was on the park board agenda regularly as we were embarking on becoming designated as a bicycle-friendly community. And as I had shared in the past, we have a well-rounded committee that's been formed, with several city staff along with a variety of people throughout the community. Due to the pandemic, it's been difficult for us to continue to meet, and I think quite frankly, some of the priorities just changed during that time. So I do intend to reunite that group again, though, here in the near future, and just touch base with everybody and continue to strive towards that the best we can. But that's not to say we haven't done anything, and that a couple of the examples I've already shared with the Hawks Ridge Trails opening is really good progress. Getting free bikes out to the community, those that need them, is a huge step forward. And there again, kudos to Julie. She had gotten a request from somebody that needed a three-wheel recumbent, and she was able to find one that she could donate and give to her for free. So just a lot of great effort there. And then a while back, we received a donation from the New Shields over in Eden Prairie for a bike fix-it station. And so that's the picture there on the left. Our Public Works group installed that over at McKnight Park, which is a very popular site for people to park and then go out on the trails. And So that's really essentially a spot to pump some air in your tires, or there's a variety of some of the basic tools. You know, if you need to, you know, fix your bike on the fly and forgot to bring those tools with you. So big thank you goes out to Shields and Eden Prairie for that as well. But yeah, so we'll plan on reconvening that committee here in the near future, and then as I do that, I'll then bring those updates back to the park board as we make more progress. Any questions on that item?
All right, 7F pickleball courts at Lions Park.
Okay, so here's another exciting one that our Public Works crew deserves a lot of credit for, in conjunction with Dermco Levine, which was the company that they contracted to do the resurfacing. So this was a project that we had shared with you in a work session previously as an improvement project over at Lions Park. You know, our overarching goal here was to actually expand on this site, you know, and get to the point where we could have 10 to 12 dedicated pickleball courts. But due to the pandemic and just being mindful of budget, a lot of our capital projects got put on pause. However, we felt like this was a project that was important to do. You know, the courts there at Lions Park really needed resurfacing, and it was, you know, a relatively low budget project to go in there and resurface those courts. Put in some of the interior fencing, and create 6 dedicated pickleball courts. So these just opened a couple of weeks ago, and the participants down there are ecstatic. Been getting a lot of positive reviews on the surface itself and the way the ball plays. I was hoping to do sort of a grand opening event last week Thursday, and had intended on, you know, inviting park board and some council. Just I think it's important to celebrate these things, but there again, just felt like it might not be the safest to be bringing, you know, a lot of people together, and especially the older individuals that like to play down there in the mornings. So worked with Zach, our recreation supervisor that oversees athletics. He worked with Kevin in our communications department. They went down there and had some conversations with some of the players down there, and so there'll be some social media posts coming out shortly highlighting the new Lions Park pickleball courts. And then I, on half of the Parks and Rec department, provided some treats to the Public Works crew for their work, not only taking care of our parks throughout the summer, but especially for their work on enhancing the courts here at Lions Park. So big thank you goes to Public Works Director Brian Jung, along with the rest of his crew that were involved on that.
There's no scheduling of these courts or anything like that. It's just walk up and
Yep.
If there's a court open, you go on it.
Yep. First come, first serve. Yeah.
All right, well, they look terrific. I went over and took a look at them a week ago, and yeah, they did a real nice job.
Yeah, I mean, between that, along with you know, the dog park we put in there recently, and the pump track, and some of those other upgrades, you know, it's really sort of enhanced the whole Lions Park over there. So
There's a lot going on over there now. It used to be pretty sleepy.
Yep. You know, and I know there was, you know, the thought to redo the shelter or the concessions and shelter located over by the baseball fields. So, you know, hopefully we'll be able to resume that in the near future as well. All right. I think we can go on to the next one.
Okay, and that takes us to 7G, the Lake Grace Trail update.
So this is a project that we're looking at here. As you recall, a couple of years ago, there was a improvement project on Highway 41, and as part of that project, there was an underpass that was installed right here. And you know, you may have gotten some feedback or even heard it in the community that it's currently kind of the underpass that leads to nowhere, because there's still the need to create the connection over here. There's some backwater here, so it requires a bridge. And then ultimately, we as staff are looking at kind of a trail improvement project that's highlighted here throughout the yellow. So last year, our city engineer and public works director spent some time visiting with the residents that live along this trail to talk about this trail improvement project, to get their feedback, listen to the concerns that they had, and then started to work with HKGI, which is a architectural firm that puts designs together. You know, and so really kind of the big goals here are to, you know, create a connection to that underpass that was built, which ultimately creates a safer way to get across Highway 41. So it creates an east-west connection there. And then another big goal that we would want to accomplish out of this trail improvement project would be to widen the trail compared to what it is currently. So currently throughout this trail section, the majority of it's only 5 to 6 feet wide, which just isn't suitable if we're going to generate, you know, more trail use, but also from the standpoint of winter maintenance, it's just not, it's not wide enough to be able to plow. And so really our standard, our public works standard for building new trails is, you know, a minimum of 8 feet wide, you know, ideally more 10 to 12 feet wide where we can. And so, you know, taking that into account, in addition with, you know, the feedback from the residents, which, you know, the majority of their feedback was really just, you know, ideally wanting to create as much separation from, you know, their lot line as much as we can. You know, I think, you know, one idea that stemmed out of that would, you know, would be to actually do it like some sort of a boardwalk out on the lake. But as you can imagine, that's a very expensive option. And so we're trying to do the best we can with what's existing there, but there are some site conditions that are playing a factor with this. One of them would be the pretty steep slope between the edge of the trail going down to the lake. Another one would be there are some trees right along the edge of the trail that are going to need to be looked at. And then there's also a section here where there's a row of townhomes where their patio pretty much abuts up to the trail. You know, so we're trying to be mindful of their situation and the fact that this would be this trail enhancement would generate more trail use going through there. So what I'm going to review next is essentially just a draft of what Hoisington has come back with. It's sort of a place for us to start with. They actually brought this forward last fall, but we just really weren't in a position to take it forward yet. And then there's sort of the pause due to COVID-19. But this is a project that we want to kind of resurrect, so to speak, and start generating some more feedback to try to make this trail connection. So I'm going to do my best to walk you through this draft that they've put together. And just so you know where this is at is, I'm going to be reviewing this with you tonight to see what questions or feedback you may have. But then what we'll likely be doing is having another open house with the residents that live over along that trail to review this with them and get their feedback. I think there's still a decent amount of discussion at the staff level regarding some of the options that might exist within this. But ultimately, the goal here would then be to bring it back to the September Park Board meeting where I can share more details and seek your recommendation to move this forward to the City Council to look at. So I can zoom in here in a little bit, but just before I do that, kind of review what we're looking at here. So over here would be where the underpass is. Can everybody see where I'm kind of circling? Okay. And then here would be the proposed bridge coming across that backwater where I'm circling there. And then along this trail, the gray is where the proposed trail would lay out. And then it's hard to see now, but when I zoom in, you'll see it better. There's a red dotted line, which represents where the existing trail lies. And then there's, here you got called out as section A. And then we've got section B, section C, and section D, which are primarily along that row of townhomes. And those sections are intended to translate down here for you to understand kind of the profile of the trail and what it would look like. So this top row shows what's existing. So on section A, which is right here, up here, you can see that the existing trail that leads down from the residential home slopes down, and then there's basically a 5-foot trail, and then it slopes down from there down to the lake. The proposed would be to widen this trail to 11-foot width trail. So you can see it doesn't really impact section A all that much, but as we get into sections B, C, and D, to create that separation for those people living within the house, in the townhomes there, is to lower the grade of the trail. So here you can see the current where you've got, let's see here, basically 7 feet of their existing patio, and then there's the 5-foot trail, and then the slope leading down to the lake. And so then the proposed would be to add in a retaining wall that would include a fence, and then drop it down, the trail down to get the ability to have some horizontal, to have that 11-foot width trail, and then again, that slope down to the lake. And you can see it's sort of a similar occurrence going across section C and section D there. So from the perspective of the homeowners, the trail will be 5 to 6 feet down below them to minimize kind of that impact of trail use, feeling like it's right outside their patio. And then there would be the decorative retaining wall built along with the fence.
Why was the fence suggested? Wouldn't that block the view of the owners to the lake?
To the retaining wall? Yeah, I think it creates just another level of, decoration, but then also there wouldn't be the ability to hop the retaining wall or, and those are details that, we can have further discussion with the homeowners as well, but.
So suggested that, or if that would be something they'd say, I don't want a fence at the end of my.
Well, I wonder how high it would be, and I'm sure those things will get ironed out, but I wouldn't think that it would be that high either, would you?
Looks like
right there, yeah. That's my neighborhood. I live right there on Bender Road. And I can tell you that it is really tight quarters back on that trail. It is really tight. And I, even looking at these renderings here, I don't know that it accurately does justice for how tight it is back there, like in some of those sections. So I think as much space as you can give the resident. I mean, obviously they'll give you their feedback when you have your session with them, but it's pretty tight back there. And I can see why the extra precaution to make sure that they're getting some semblance of some spacing and privacy back there, because it is really tight.
Yeah, and the thought is, to try to move the trail towards the lake as much as possible. It's just not that practical along this edge here, just due to the steep slope of the trail. But as we come around the corner here, you can see, let me zoom in a little bit. You can see that dotted line here where the existing trail is, and then the proposed trail trying to bring it out a little bit further and coming around, again, just to trying to create as much space as possible.
Confident with the engineering of that retaining wall that they'll have enough space between townhomes and said wall. So I know a lot of times in those applications, they have a GeoGrid application that's got to run at least height of the wall or height times 2 back towards those townhouses. So they're confident. Does this rendering show that, or is this just preliminary where they haven't even dug into that?
Yeah, this is just intended to be conceptual at this point, and then, after further discussion and feedback, it would then drive down to more of those details, and construction plans and whatnot.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
General on the tree line. Well, first, is there a need? And if there is, does the park board or whoever does this get involved in any buckthorn removal that might be needed? There's a lot of buckthorn.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So that would be part of the project. Okay. Yep. And so I know some of the feedback from the residents is, they're pretty happy that there'll be some of that clearing and they'll get a little better view of the lake, that they'll be able to view from their home. So
what's interesting about this neighborhood is that there's no through traffic. But with this trail connecting, going through the under 41, it essentially creates a pedestrian path of through traffic from the neighborhood. So, we obviously all love the idea of being able to just walk over to Target and rather quickly. But it's interesting to think about this whole neighborhood being opened up just simply by adding a little bridge right there over that little creek.
Is this paved or crushed?
It'll be paved. Yep. Yeah, let me take you on to the next slide, which actually shows some visuals of what that would look like. And I can try to zoom in here. So it's kind of hard not being able to refer back to that first slide, but if you look here, there's, 1, 2, 3 on over to 10. Those are the different visuals. And then the arrow is indicating kind of the perspective. So 1 through 4 is kind of looking at it from one direction, and then 5 through 10 would be like if you turned around and looked at it the other way. So image 1 shows kind of coming around under that underpass and starting to turn the corner there.
Yeah, that's coming out of the tunnel right from 41.
Yep. And right now it's just kind of like a cul-de-sac almost. Image 2 there would be the bridge. Image 2 would be the bridge going across that backwater. And then you can kind of see image 3 starting to come up, approaching those townhomes. And then view 4, you can start to see that separation of the trail being lower than the existing patios. You can see that in view 5 and view 6 as well. The other thing that this accomplishes too, and you probably know best, Zach, if you've walked this trail, is kind of right in this section, there's a decent sort of hill, if you will, which there again, if you're starting to get more usage on that trail and there's some cross trafficking going on, this design helps with the sight lines. So you're not coming up over a hill and not seeing the other side. So I think that was part of the design as well, to increase visibility along with the width of the trail to accommodate people going both ways.
Well, what's interesting about the timing of this right now, Marshall, is, and it totally unforeseen in terms of the timing, is that the pavilion on Lake Grace burned down last year, and it actually just got put up. They've just done the landscape, and it looks beautiful too. They did a really nice job on it, but this is only going to continue to enhance the overall views of that entire area there, at least on this side of the lake.
Yep.
Marshall, is this the first time residents will have seen it as your presentation today? So if a resident says, hey, I heard this is what's going on, have they seen it before this?
The residents that live along this trail haven't seen this yet.
Yeah.
And so it is due to timing.
Yep.
I wanted to share it with the park board so you guys feel like you're getting updated on the concept, so to speak. And then once we have that open house for the residents, I'll encourage and invite the park board to participate in that as well. So you can hear from the residents directly. And then I think that then factors into your discussion that you'll have once I bring it back in September and seek a recommendation to go to council. So yeah, really just intended to kind of give you a sneak peek at, the work that's been done and kind of a general concept, so we can, get feedback. And I think staff will continue to have some discussion on this as well. But yeah, and then continuing on, you can see it kind of opens up a little bit more with some residential homes. And then right here is where it would curve off and go over towards that pavilion that Zach was talking about. And then over to the left is a cutout up to the street. Any thoughts or questions on that project?
Say the renderings and the drawings look pretty exciting to me, and I know you'll work real closely with the residents in that area to make sure their needs are met, and that it'd be a wonderful section of trail that I think a lot of people will be able to appreciate. So this is a good start.
Yeah, that looks really good.
It looks awesome. I guess, Marshall, I just had one quick question about the dock. I don't know where the lines are between City of Chaska and Jonathan Association. Would there be a potential to put the dock, either an additional dock or the dock in a different space on the other side of the lake?
I knew somebody would bring up the dock.
It's the first time I've seen it, and I thought it's a really neat idea. I think that I don't want to speak for the residents down there because they'll have their own opinions when they have a chance to give direct feedback. But I would imagine that some of them, because the other side of the lake there's a massive, it's sort of like fallen enough of abyss from down below where the Family Learning Center is at. And it almost seems like if anyone were concerned about in terms of foot traffic and people piling up down there, it might be, and we see plenty of people out on there fishing on a regular basis, coming around from the underpass underneath Pioneer Trail, coming all the way down to the pavilion. We see people around the lake and actually coming right off of the pavilion as well, fishing. And so I think it's a natural spot to put some sort of a dock. But I'm curious to see if the residents who actually live down on those townhomes, how they think about having that dock right down there. But.
Yeah, and I'll be honest. I think this is probably showing potential type amenities that could be included as part of this project. I think the priority is going to be the bridge and the trail enhancement. But architects like to add in those little extras, and so it's sort of the maybe future phases could consider, some of these other options. But you're right. I think once you show it, you naturally start to maybe visualize it there and want to understand what that impact may be. And so I think the residents will want to weigh in on that as well.
Yeah, and I just had one quick side note too. I noticed that the tunnel that goes underneath 41 there, it's big, it's wide, it's tall, and it's also lit. Like it's when you walk by it at night or out there later at night, you can see that it's really well lit. And I was just curious if that's a thing that is going to be the sort of the new norm for any tunnels, anything like that, underpasses, with having a pedestrian path at least being lit or having something light of some kind.
Yeah, I think especially as you think about any new construction that, trying to create a sense of safety is important. So I think most future projects would include lighting of some sort in an underpass. All right. Well, with that, I think that that finishes discussion items and updates that I had.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Director Grange. That was a lot to update. And so we appreciate all of those. And that takes us on to agenda item number 8, which is other business. And so that way we can kind of go around the room here. And we'll start with the folks that are weighing in here on Zoom. And I'm just going to go from left to right here. And Zach, for our board roundtable, this is just kind of items that you'd like to comment on that have taken place in Chaska or otherwise since we last met. So it might be, you might have a sizable list, but at any rate, any comments?
No, I think I'll spare everybody the sizable list, but I just wanted to echo something that Matt Uderman mentioned earlier. And I think that Marshall and the staff in Park and Rec have done a really great job during this shutdown. I missed the meeting where we got together to go through the community center, but Marshall and Mary were kind enough to meet with me after that to walk me through everything. And I was just really impressed, not only with how fresh the facility looks, but just all the thought that went into everything. And I think that these are unprecedented times, and it's a great opportunity to not only show that, the leadership that we currently have is capable of handling regular business, but when you get into unprecedented times, I think that they've clearly done a really good job of handling all this. So I just wanted to echo what Matt Uderman had mentioned earlier. I think that Marshall and everyone has done a great job through all this, and I'm excited to see what the future holds for all of us with Park and Rec.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Saresig. And next up, we have Commissioner Weinveen.
I will spare everyone as well. This has been a long meeting, but thanks to Marshall, Mary, and everyone on the Park and Rec team that has just put in probably tremendous hours, time, thought, and effort into making the community a safe place for everyone, and the programming. You guys have just done an incredible job. The trail video, the mountain biking trail video, awesome. It was really fun to be out there on the opening ceremony days. The community center, as Zach was saying, I was fortunate enough to be there when for the tour after hours, and it looked great. It was fresh, and I can see where someone who is maybe concerned about safety would feel safe. The measures that have taken place there to social distance and keep everyone safe with online appointments and cleaning in between guests arriving to the community center is great. So I hope to see membership increase as the school year begins and the weather changes. And I guess my own message to everyone out there is stay safe. And in this time, I think it's really important to look out for one another and take time to reach in and check in with others and make sure that everyone in your circle is doing okay mentally, and just watch out for each other. That's all for me.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Weinveen. And do we have Commissioner Ives? Is he? I am not seeing Josh here, so unless he pipes in, I'm going to go ahead and move on to Commissioner Branch.
Yeah, Parks and Rec, great job, guys. I mean, I can only understand. I mean, I'm sure we all understand in our own, careers and lives and jobs and all that stuff, the extent that we've had to take to go above and beyond. But thanks a lot, guys. That's huge. Keeping the community in it and happy. Also, disc golf course has been really popular lately. A lot of people out there. If you have not tried disc golf, give it a shot. There's a local sports store, has discs there. You can go out. I usually throw around in about 20 minutes, but it's nice to see a lot of people out there using the course. So keep it up. Try it if you haven't. It's awesome.
Thank you, Commissioner Branch. Commissioner Downs.
One comment on the July 6th City Council meeting. They had a presentation about the PAR 30, and it was really interesting that they've made some changes in the plans, and they look really, really good. And they've got their funding pretty well in line for the first phase of this thing. So they've got some loose ends but it looks like they're going to be starting this fall, with the thing. And once they get started doing that, it'll go through all next summer and then be open in 2022. So it looks really good. And they've got, after they get the first part going, they're going to go out and try to raise some more money to do the clubhouse. They don't have that in the budget quite yet, and they've got some other things, but it all looks very, very positive. So if you have a chance, if you're interested at all in the PAR 30 and the future of it and stuff, take a look at that July 6th meeting, and it's a really long meeting, but in the middle, you can find the thing on the PAR 30. So It's all good.
Dave, I noticed it looks like that this whole project is still being done with the sort of learning links
Yep.
type of component to it, which is really good. And, we don't talk much about golf courses here because golf is a separate department
Right.
from Park and Rec, but that doesn't mean that we don't have a lot of people interested in golf around here. It's a great activity. So I'm glad that you commented on that because they're really doing some cool things over there.
That's all I got.
Okay, Commissioner Uterman.
I'll echo the learning links. In fact, on my way over here, I got a phone call from a friend that wouldn't ordinarily be plugged into local city stuff. And he was running up to Hazeltine to drop off a $1,500 check for a foursome, which I think they're doing a fundraiser by way of Hazeltine. Liz would be able to comment more on that. Also, I've mentioned a bunch of times that if parks were a pill, they'd be over $1 billion industry. And I just wanted to refresh. I've been around town in a lot of different venues lately. And somebody brought the concern to me that they said some cultures or other people that are new to the community don't realize all of our parks are free. We've got over 32 parks that are free and accessible to all people. And I just wanted to reiterate that because that would be lost upon me. I've grown up with parks. I love our parks. I know we have a park within a half a mile of every resident, but I wanted to cover off on that, particularly in this stage right now where mental health is at an all-time concern. We're cloistered in our own homes. We can't necessarily freely go to the community center. There's all these different things, but at least now we have the most beautiful time in Minnesota to get outside and utilize our parks. I also received a comment that moved into a suggestion that moved into me suggesting it here, which is, I know we've got a couple parks left to name in the next couple of years. A suggestion that was brought forth was the naming of Farmers Park with recognition of the I always say it wrong, indigenous folks that were first to be here, followed by over 150 years of history that would include farmers from the D-Towns to the Kelsers to the Kelms and the Grimms and the Schmiegs, and the list goes on and on and on. So I thought it was a pretty interesting suggestion to capture the history of Chaska that's been a farming town by giving a nod to some of these farmers. Now we live on Kelm Street and there's a bunch of the names of the streets within Jonathan that are named after farmers. But there's a rich heritage that may be lost in the next 50 years as we start to develop in some of those areas. And then the last thing is to call out to my two kids. This will be the 4th year that we have a birthday party at one of the local parks. We typically gather at Community Park. This year, our oldest will be 5 and our youngest will be 1. They're going to have a joint party at Community Park. And so those are good outdoor assets that we can use for celebrations. And it's also sears in their head that park will be part of those celebrations for years to come. It's simple setup, simple tear down, lower cost than some other alternatives, and they're available to community members.
Thanks, Matt. And Commissioner Keyport.
Dittos again. I agree with all the kudos to the park board. My family has really enjoyed over this COVID period, community center, the farmers market, the Cubs games, and sort of rediscovered all the bike paths, which have just been delightful. They're very well maintained. And I think when you get to a point to go right or left, signage would be a good thing. I don't know where I'm going now. I haven't used it since my kids were little, but we've really enjoyed, especially the trails, bike trails. It's been delightful. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, and finally, everybody's touched on most of the things, but I had just a couple of things that stick out. Just somebody that likes to get out early on his bike to be able to see the fitness classes taking place out in the parking lot at the community center and how well those are attended. And you can just see the joy in the people that are out there doing that. And they have been well attended. And a lot of those early mornings, especially this time of year, is the best time of the day. And it's great to see people taking full advantage of that. And then lastly, I don't think we can say it enough, just, how great the Chaska Cares initiative was and what it did for people around town who were going crazy, and the way you were so creative in doing the things that you did to lift the spirits around town. I think that really says a lot about the quality of the department, the quality of the caring of the city government in trying to deliver and being mindful of that mental health component that that needed some work. So thank you all very much for that. And that is all I've got. And so with that, again, this being a rather lengthy meeting, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Okay, Commissioner Uterman, a second.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Branch. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.